A young woman, an orphan hidden away in a foreign kingdom, forced to conceal her true identity, and yet she ends up saving an entire nation. It sounds like something out of a modern-day superhero movie, right? But believe it or not, this is a tale that goes back thousands of years, and it all starts with a woman named Esther. Esther, a young Jewish girl orphaned at a young age, raised by her cousin Mordecai. She's not born into royalty or wealth, in fact she's quite humble. But there's something about Esther that sets her apart. Her beauty, yes, but also her intelligence, her grace, and above all, her courage. But what makes Esther truly remarkable isn't just her outward beauty, it's the strength that lies within. When the king is searching for a new queen after banishing his former queen Vashti, Esther is chosen. But there's a twist. She's hiding a secret. She's Jewish, and in a kingdom where Jews are often looked down upon, she's forced to keep her heritage hidden. But why? Because sometimes in life, the truth isn't always the easiest thing to reveal. Esther has no choice but to play her cards carefully, knowing that her true identity could mean the difference between life and death. Now let's talk about Mordecai, Esther's cousin and guardian. This guy isn't just a family protector, he's a man of wisdom, strength and loyalty. He's the one who raised Esther, guiding her through the dangers of being a young orphan girl in a foreign land. But Mordecai is more than just a caregiver. He's also deeply connected to the kingdom's politics, and his loyalty to Esther runs deeper than just family. This man uncovers an assassination plot against the king, but instead of keeping it to himself or taking the glory, he quietly passes the information along, saving the king's life. No one knows it was him at first, but his act of loyalty is recorded in the royal chronicles. It's a small act, but one that will come to matter later in the story. And now, let's move on to the villain of our story, Haman. Oh Haman. If there's ever been a character who embodies arrogance and evil, it's him. He's the king's right-hand man, a man with enough power to get almost anything he wants. But Haman's biggest flaw? His pride. Haman is furious that Mordecai refuses to bow to him, and in his rage, he concocts an evil plan. He doesn't just want to punish Mordecai, no, he wants to exterminate every single Jew in the Persian Empire. He convinces King Ahasuerus to issue a decree for their annihilation, and with that single order, the fate of the Jews hangs in the balance. And then of course, there's King Ahasuerus. He's the man in charge, the one with the power to make or break lives with a single command. He's a king who can throw lavish parties, make huge decisions and, well, he can also be easily manipulated. The king is a man of impulse. He's not exactly a shrewd decision-maker, and his trust in Haman sets the stage for the disaster that is about to unfold. It all starts with Queen Vashti refusing the king's order. Picture it. King Ahasuerus throws a grand feast for his nobles, a celebration that lasts for days. At the height of his revelry, he commands his queen, Vashti, to appear before him and show off her beauty to his guests. Sounds like something out of a fairy tale, right? But Vashti, in her wisdom, refuses. She knows her worth, and isn't going to be paraded like an object. The king, in his rage, banishes her, and just like that the throne is left empty, and the hunt for a new queen begins. This is where Esther enters the scene. She's swept up in a beauty contest of sorts, where young women from all over the empire are presented to the king. But Esther stands out, not only because of her beauty, but because of her grace and intelligence. She's chosen to be the new queen, but there's a catch. She must keep her Jewish identity a secret, as Mordecai warns her that revealing it could jeopardize her position. Now, while Esther is rising to power, Mordecai is out in the streets, continuing his role as a loyal subject. And that's when he uncovers something huge: a plot to assassinate King Ahasuerus. Two royal guards, disgruntled and angry, are planning to kill the king. Mordecai hears of it, and immediately passes the word to Esther, who informs the king. The plot is foiled, the assassins are caught, and the king's life is saved. But instead of receiving the reward he deserves, Mordecai's act of loyalty is simply noted in the king's book of records. Little does anyone know, this small act of heroism will come back to save them all. But not everyone is thrilled with Mordecai's actions. Enter Haman, the king's newly appointed vizier. He's got power, pride and a serious ego problem. When Haman walks through the palace, everyone bows down in respect, except for Mordecai. Mordecai refuses to bow, standing firm in his beliefs. This enrages Haman, and instead of just dealing with Mordecai, he concocts a plan to wipe out the entire Jewish population of the empire. He convinces King Ahasuerus to issue a decree that on the 13th of Adar all Jews will be killed. And just like that, the fate of the Jews is sealed. Or so Haman thinks. Mordecai, knowing that this will lead to the destruction of their people, turns to Esther for help. This is where things get interesting. Esther is scared. She's in a position of power, yes, but she's also in a foreign land, far from her people, and now she has to make the hardest choice of her life. If she goes to the king without being summoned, she risks her life. If the king doesn't extend his golden scepter to her, she will be executed. But what does Esther do? She gathers every ounce of courage, prays, and asks Mordecai and the rest of the Jews to fast and pray with her for 3 days. She knows the time has come to act, even if it costs her life. On the 3rd day, Esther steps into the king's court, her heart racing. The tension is thick as she approaches the king. And then, the king extends his golden scepter. She's safe, for now. But what will she do next? Instead of rushing to tell the king about Haman's evil plot, Esther plays her cards carefully. She invites King Ahasuerus and Haman to a banquet. But at the banquet she doesn't reveal her request yet. She invites them back for a second banquet. Now if this was a movie, this is where the suspense really builds. The king is intrigued. Haman is confident, thinking he's in the clear, but Esther is playing the long game. At the second banquet, Esther finally reveals her true identity. She tells the king that she is Jewish, and that Haman's plan is to kill her people. The king, shocked and furious, turns on Haman. He orders Haman to be hanged on the very gallows that Haman had built for Mordecai. And just like that, the tables are turned. But the story doesn't end there. The king, in his anger, can't undo the decree that has already been signed, but he gives the Jews the right to defend themselves. And on the 13th of Adar, instead of facing destruction, the Jews rise up, defend themselves and secure victory. It's a triumph for the Jewish people, and a reminder that even in the darkest moments, courage and faith can lead to victory. Now let's pause for a moment and reflect on what makes this story so powerful and timeless. Esther's story is about hope. It's a reminder that, even in the face of danger, there's always a chance for redemption, for victory, for a turn in our favor. In life we face moments when everything feels stacked against us. It could be in our careers, our personal struggles, or even our relationships. But like Esther, we can find courage in those darkest times. Esther didn't just act for herself, she acted for everyone. And that's something we can all take away. Our decisions, our actions, have the power to impact not just ourselves, but those around us. Now, let's talk about the grand finale of this story, the celebration of Purim. After the victory, after the Jews defend themselves and survive, what do? They celebrate, of course, and not just a quiet celebration. This is a festival that's full of life, joy, and gratitude. Purim is the holiday that was established to commemorate the events of the Book of Esther, and it's a time for Jews around the world to celebrate their survival and their deliverance. But Purim isn't just about remembering the past, it's about embracing joy in the present. It's a festival like no other, one that's filled with customs that are as fun as they are meaningful. The first major tradition? Reading the Megillah, the scroll of Esther, in the synagogue. This is where the entire story is read aloud, from beginning to end. And let me tell you, it's not just a casual reading. People get involved. Whenever Haman's name is mentioned, the crowd boos, hisses, or shakes grogers, little noisemakers, to drown it out. It's like a big interactive storytelling event, where everyone participates in the drama. It's loud, it's fun, and it's a great reminder of how far the Jewish people have come. Then there's the tradition of Mishloach Manot, the sending of food gifts. On Purim, Jews exchange baskets of food with family, friends, and neighbors. It's all about sharing with those around you, just as Esther shared her bravery with her people. These food gifts often include sweet treats, and they symbolize the sweetness of victory and the joy of friendship and community. It's a way of spreading happiness, and who doesn't love receiving a basket full of goodies? Next, there's Matana La'Evionim, which is giving charity to the poor. This is one of the most important aspects of Purim, because, just as Esther saved her people, it's important to look out for those in need. The idea is to make sure that everyone has enough to celebrate, no matter their situation. It's a beautiful reminder that even in times of great joy, we should never forget those who are less fortunate. And then comes the Purim feast. This is no ordinary meal. It's a time for families and communities to gather together, eat, drink, and celebrate life. Often, people dress up in costumes, just as Esther dressed up as a queen to face her challenges. You'll see people in all kinds of costumes, from kings and queens to superheroes, clowns, and even inanimate objects. It's a time of complete joy and laughter, where everyone is encouraged to let loose and enjoy the celebration. But here's something truly fascinating. The spirit of Purim is one of joyous irony. Think about it. The story begins with a decree to destroy the Jews, but ends in a massive celebration of life. It's like the ultimate plot twist. Esther's courage and the Jewish people's survival are celebrated with laughter, joy, and a feast. There's a deep sense of unity and celebration that reminds us that even in our darkest hours, joy can come from the most unexpected places. Purim is a reminder that no matter how tough things get, there's always a chance for things to turn around. The world can feel upside down sometimes, but Purim teaches us that the impossible is possible. Just like Esther's rise from orphan to queen, Purim tells us that with courage, unity, and faith, we can overcome even the darkest of times. Now, as we wrap up journey through the story of Esther and the celebration of Purim, let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've learned. What does Esther's story really teach us, and how can we apply it to our own lives? At its core, the story of Esther is about standing up when it matters the most. It's about embracing who you truly are, even when it feels like the world might be against you. Esther's courage didn't come from a place of certainty. She had no idea how things would turn out, but she knew she couldn't remain silent. In a world where it's easy to blend in and avoid conflict, Esther's story encourages us to be bold, to speak up, and to do what's right, even when the risks are high. And let's not forget the power of community. Just like how the Jewish people came together to face their greatest challenge, there's strength in unity. When we face our own challenges, it's important to remember that we don't have to go through them alone. Support, whether from family, friends, or even strangers, can make all the difference. Purim, as a celebration, is a reminder that joy and gratitude should always be part of our lives, no matter what we're facing. It's easy to forget to celebrate the small victories when we're caught up in the rush of life. But Purim shows us that there's power in celebrating life, in coming together, and in finding sweetness even after hardship. Life can throw unexpected twists our way, but like Esther, we can face them with courage and hope for a better outcome. So, if there's one takeaway from today, it's this. In the face of adversity, don't be afraid to stand up, embrace your identity, and take action. And when the going gets tough, remember to celebrate the wins, however small they might be. You never know what a little bit of courage, faith, and joy can bring. I want to hear from you. What did you think of Esther's story? Have you ever had to make a tough decision that required you to stand up for what's right? Drop a comment below, and let's talk about it. Also, if you enjoyed this story and want to dive deeper into more fascinating tales, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss any of our future adventure. Thanks for joining me today. Until next time, stay brave, stay joyful, and remember, like Esther, we all have the power to change the world. God bless.